Shalom. At the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Vayetzei, we find Yaakov, that is Jacob, leaving, going out. That's what Vayetzei means. He is going out. He's getting away. The question is, what is he getting away from? From what is he fleeing? Let's take a look at the Torah itself. We go to chapter 28, verse 10 of the book of Genesis. Vayetzei Yaakov mi Beersheva, vayelech Harana, vayifka b'makom, vayalen sham ki va hashemesh, vayikach mi'avnei hamakom, vayasem mirashaltav, vayishkav b'makom ahu, vayachlom, v'hine sulam mutzav arza, v'rosho magia hashamayma, v'hine malachei Elohim olim v'yordim bo. And Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Coming upon a certain place, he passed the night there, for the sun was setting. Taking one of the stones of the place, he made it his headrest as he lay down in that place. He dreamed, and lo, a ladder was set on the ground, with its top reaching to heaven, and lo, angels of God going up and coming down on it. The question I asked a moment ago was, from what was Jacob fleeing? What was he getting away from? And of course the answer is he was getting away from his brother Esau. In last week's Torah portion, Toldot, we saw that the brothers had drifted so far apart. There was such rage that they certainly could not even talk to each other in a civil way. And there was violence, or at least the threat of violence, that dwelled between them. And so we see Jacob taking a wise course of action in this week's Torah portion. He's getting away from his brother before there was trouble, or before the trouble got to a point of all-out war. And it seems to me that sometimes in a relationship, that's exactly what has to happen. There has to be a period of de-escalating the anger. And Jacob would be out of his brother Esau's presence for approximately 2 decades. We'll see in next week's Torah portion that there is something of a reconciliation between the brothers, but in the end they decide to go their own ways. It seems to me that this week's Torah portion tells us something about the current situation between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. As you may well be aware of, Hamas recently increased the number of rockets that it's been shooting into Israel. Over the course of the last month or so, approximately 1,000 rockets have fallen in Israel and landing indiscriminately in civilian populated areas. And of course Israel has responded and in a very measured way, going after the leaders of Hamas and doing everything that it can to avoid civilian casualties. We know that Israel texts and tweets messages to the Palestinians, telegraphing in a sense what it is about to do, telling them to leave certain areas, instructing them that there are rocket launching sites in a particular neighborhood and that they are going into that neighborhood. And of course Hamas, as well as other terrorist groups, hide behind civilian populations. And of course there have unfortunately been civilian casualties among the Palestinians. Now, people question Israel's response, saying it's disproportionate, or using words like that. But this is unfair. There is no moral equivalency here. Israel has no interest in harming Palestinian civilians. On the other hand, on the other side, we see a concerted effort to go after Israeli civilians, non-combatants. And when Israel retaliates, it finds itself in the midst of urban warfare, which is very, very hard to conduct. The world sometimes is very hypocritical and will cite what Israel's doing without citing the provocation from the other side that precedes the Israeli actions. And so we have to rally around Israel in these perilous days. And of course, we are praying that there is a ceasefire, and we certainly pray for that. We pray for a minimum of casualties on either side. And we also recognize that Israel might have to commit ground troops in Gaza. Whatever happens, we have to rally around Israel. Now, what does this week's Torah portion, Vayetzei, what wisdom does it shed on the overall situation between the Palestinians and Israel? We see that Jacob has the wisdom to disengage from Esau. And in the medium run, even in the long run, we must disengage from the Palestinians. There must be a two-state solution in which they have their country and we have our country. There's simply too many differences between us. We must disengage. Now, that's easier said than done. Hamas rejects Israel's right to exist, and it's very hard to sit down and negotiate with someone who doesn't even recognize your right to exist. But that's what's going to have to happen eventually. And we pray for the peace of Israel. We pray for the peace of the Middle East. And in the meantime, we have to stand beside Israel. I hope you read this week's Torah portion and derive as much wisdom as you can from it. Shabbat Shalom.
أبا الشمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك عينني أبا الشمعون كن بعوني